Hi guys, Charlie with Boxing Focus, and Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao possibly on. I don't really care about the political side of it, but it's talked about enough that I've been thinking about the fight. Mayweather toyed with Juan Manuel Marquez. Marquez very competitive with Manny Pacquiao. Mayweather and Marquez both counterpunchers. Therefore, Mayweather easily beats Manny Pacquiao. Right? I don't think so. I think there's context to the fights. I also think that you really need to consider the differences in Mayweather's style and Marquez's style. I think counterpunching is a fairly broad term to apply to both of them. Marquez, I would call this an aggressive counterpuncher. He stands his ground. When he backs up, it's in small steps. He's looking to keep his shape. He'll absorb punches if he has to, in order to get into range and spot, not necessarily spot openings, but whilst you're punching, you're close enough that he can throw his shots. It's more about engaging an opponent and exchanging with them, or at least dominating the exchange. Floyd Mayweather, on the other hand, is an elusive counterpuncher. He's a little bit unique in boxing in that he doesn't just have one style. Now, people are probably rolling their eyes when I say that, but when he's at distance, he holds his guard very different, and his feet very differently to when he's in the pocket. When his opponent is close distance on him. So at distance, he's more squared up. He's got both hands up. His jab will be quicker. It's got less distance to travel, so he can use that sharp jab to maintain distance. And his right hand is in a better position to throw a straight right, a lead straight right. And he's a master at judging distance. So as soon as his opponent steps into range, he'll fire off a shot and then he'll move. Or as soon as his opponent is in range of their own jab, he may be stationary for a second. He'll wait for them to throw the jab, and he'll do the pull counter and come back over the top with the right. But then as soon as his opponent gets aggressive and comes forward, he switches into the shoulder roll that he's more famous for, where he's basically making himself an incredibly small target. The shoulder's coming up. He's got the hand here, which can either be blocking a hook or catching a punch, or alternatively being used to counter punch. He's leaning back. He's got his left hand across his body. There's nowhere to hit. There's nowhere to hit, especially for orthodox fighters. Very, very effective against orthodox fighters, because that back right hand, the power hand, it has to get past his shoulder first. It has to get past basically the defense before it can land. So it's almost impossible to land once you're up close with him. Against southpaw fighters, I don't think it's going to be as effective. You saw when Ortiz backed Mayweather up, he was landing punches shortly before that fight went south on us, which was a shame. That fight was just bubbling up. Ortiz had spent 3 rounds working out what he had to do, which was be aggressive, and when he was aggressive, stuff was happening. But then the fight was over before it could unfold. So there we go. At distance, Judah was having good success. Almost dropped Floyd Mayweather, though Judah was never a great fighter over the distance, and Mayweather dominated once Zab slowed down slightly. So there's not much for us to go on in terms of good, fast southpaws who are good at judging distance, and more importantly, good at moving against Mayweather. And Mayweather hasn't fought many guys who are great at moving. So with his elusive counterpunching style, when a guy's up close and he's in that shoulder roll, he's generally looking for openings, which is when an opponent is throwing punches. Most guys, when they're throwing punches, they're quite stationary. When you're throwing punches, your hands aren't home, so your chin is open. Mayweather picked Canelo off with some good counters that way when the few times Canelo opened up. So why would Manny Pacquiao fare any better? Pacquiao is not a very stationary fighter. He's constantly moving. The number of times you'll see a punch sail past Manny Pacquiao's head when he's in the pocket it's far more often than any other fighter. He is actually really good at moving, and he kind of masks it because he's actually using his feet to move a lot more. He does have quite a good bob and weave when he's doing it from the outside, but when he's close, he throws it that straight left, he ducks down, and he comes out around the other side of his opponent. Or he'll take a step to the side as he's coming back out. He very rarely comes back out in a straight line, and I think that's going to make him a bit of a tough target for Mayweather to catch with counters, because Mayweather's really, his game, I wouldn't say it relies upon, but a big aspect of Mayweather's style is confusing his opponents, is paralysing his opponents into being stationary in front of him, whether that's in the pocket or whether that's at distance, when he can then pick them off with superior judgment at distance, superior timing, superior range. That's what he does, and Pacquiao's not going to be falling for that. Pacquiao is going to be doing what Pacquiao does. You saw at distance, Pacquiao was better than Algieri's not a great model, but Algieri is a lot longer than Pacquiao, and Pacquiao won the fight at distance. Whenever it was at distance, Pacquiao was winning it. Against Bradley, again at distance, Pacquiao was winning the fight generally, and when he was working. In the first Bradley fight, he kind of switched off for the last 6 rounds. But in general, the guy landing good shots from distance was Pacquiao in those fights. Pacquiao is a very good distance puncher as well, and it's going to be interesting to see who dominates the distance, because traditionally Floyd Mayweather tends to win his fights at distance. I know he's most famous for his shoulder roll, and a lot of his highlights are based on things like the pull counter, but it's really his working in those quiet moments in the fight which actually builds up these wide margins on the scorecards. So he lands the eye-catching shots, but they punctuate long periods where Mayweather is landing, perhaps not clean punches, but he's throwing punches, he's making his opponent think, and he's generally catching them enough that if nothing else were to happen in the round, he would win it. And then when his opponent gets aggressive, even if they get a bit of success, his eye-catching counters tend to take that as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Manny Pacquiao can use his movement and his speed to actually out-hustle Floyd Mayweather at distance. In the pocket, I think both of them are going to struggle a little bit. I don't think Mayweather's shoulder roll is going to be as effective as it is against other fighters, just because of the nature of the angle a southpaw throws from. The shoulder roll's great at blocking the backhand right from an orthodox fighter, because it's coming from back here. You can just lean out the way of it. Against a southpaw, if you get that wrong, there's a bigger. Mayweather will either be having to catch that left with his right hand, or he will have to be blocking it. It's going to be much more difficult for Mayweather to be using that right hand offensively against Pacquiao when he's in the pocket. Whilst I think he's good enough to make it difficult for Pacquiao to land, the fact that he's going to be busier defending, and Pacquiao doesn't remain stationary after he throws. He'll throw a punch or 2 punches and then he moves. Mayweather's looking for openings. If Pacquiao's moving, those openings won't be there. So I think this is going to be a much more nuanced fight and a much more competitive fight than a lot of people are thinking at the moment. But it's fascinating. It's really interesting because these are the 2 greatest fighters of their generation. These guys have got great skills. I've got a lot of respect for both. If I'm honest, I'm a Pacquiao fan. Every time I've thought about the fight in the past, the head says Mayweather, the heart says Pacquiao. So I'm really quite, I'm sure most of us are really excited about the fight. But I'm excited to try and break it down and see if we can correctly predict the winner by predicting how the fight will unfold. So, if you've got any ideas, be really interested to hear them. I think we've got a lot to learn from when they meet, but we'll see. This is Charlie with Boxing Focus. Thanks for watching.